Are we ready?
We
Okay. All
are.
right. So welcome to session number 2. Yes, last, was it Sunday? We had session number 1. It is recorded, and Erin gave some great information about really just how to be more aware. And she talked about tracking your food and tracking your mood, and the different things about the 4 reasons, all of that, right? So, and then also to journal what you're eating and how you feel. So whether you're doing the storm, fog, fuel, or joy eating, all of that. So we're back. If you missed that, go back into our event page or go to Erin Postal's YouTube channel and you can find it there. And this is session number 2. We have session number 3 tomorrow at 5 PST. That's 8 p.m. EST. So I'm going to bring back the amazing Erin Postal, and she's going to go through the next session, which is about 30 minutes, Erin.
Yep, we're going to pound through this. So first of all, thanks, Wendy. You're awesome. Looking good, everyone. Thanks for coming on live. It's great. And sorry about the mix-up. I realized that I had a call at 5, and then that got canceled. So then I changed it, and then I changed it back. So sorry about that. Anyhow, this is being recorded. So you can hold on to these. Save them in your notes, because then sometime you might have a client or a customer, if you're in the business here helping people, you might want to share it with them. So I'd love to hear from some people. What were some of your takeaways? So we talked a little bit about, let me just pull it up here for you guys. Today we're going to talk about how to manage your mind. Okay. So I'm just going to review a little bit about what we did. And so let's just go to share something.
Yeah, and if you're not actually speaking or going to be asking a question at the moment, could you just mute your line? That would be great.
Okay, so last time, if you guys remember, we talked a little bit about, like, why do we eat when we're not hungry? Like, what's up with that anyhow? And that happens about 10% of the time for the average person. You have cake at a birthday, you have an ice cream. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about other things. And I wanted you guys to just start to notice the differences between, like, this is legit hunger, right? Physiological, like, I'm hungry. A feeling of withdrawal, hey, I'm giving up sugar and I can feel it, like I'm not happy about it. Or like a craving, like I'm really craving this. Just trying to understand the difference. And then I also invite you to start classifying your food, like, is this fuel, is this storm? And I'll share with you guys an example, and then you guys can jump in and share with me. So just last night, actually, like, we've had tons of company. We've had my husband's mother living with us, which is amazing. She's a great human. So zero stress. I mean, just love it. But company and dinners and socializing. And so finally last night, like, and Jeff has been like, I'm like, he's obsessed with me. I don't know. I shouldn't complain, but I'm like, dude, I need 5 minutes alone. So finally last night, I'm like, oh, I'm alone. I'm watching TV. This is awesome, right? Like, I'm in the moment. This is divine. And then I had like this thought, like, I'm going to go eat something. Like, I still work on this. Like, I'm going to go eat some cereal. This is my thing. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, why am I doing that? And, when I got right down to that, like, my initial knee-jerk reaction was to go and eat something. And I dug a little bit deeper. It was more of a craving. Right? It was a craving for something. I wanted to, like, feel that comfort, feel that. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm just super tired. Like, I'm not sad. I'm not lonely. I'm not emotionally upset. I'm just really, really tired. And I was looking actually for comfort and to go to bed. So I just said, you're just tired, dude, go to bed. So that's what I did. But it's like, I still have to work on this. Does that make sense to you guys? I hope it helps you. Speak of the devil. See what I mean? Here, just a second here. So anyhow, yeah, that was my aha moment, even though I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm so glad I have these tools. What was it for you guys? Like, what were some of the aha takeaways? Did you guys have anything that you noticed over the last couple of days, just being more aware of this? Love to hear from you.
I'll jump out.
Sure.
I totally identified my storm eating yesterday. We were at work there. Everybody was having birthday cake because it was my coworker's birthday. And I thought to myself, I don't really need this, but I'm having a really bad day. So I would say that I storm ate because I was stressed and having a bad day.
Okay, well, there you go. So let's be really curious with that. Let's imagine, let's go back to that. So, and what if you didn't eat the cake, right? What do you think your emotion was? What was the feeling that you had? Because you said your thought was, I'm having a bad day, but do you remember like in the emotion, the feeling that you were having?
Frustration. I was just so frustrated. I was angry. Yeah, and part of it was probably I wanted to be comforted because I was having such a bad day.
When you imagine not eating that cake and like just being frustrated and not eating that cake, what would that be like for you, that experience?
I would have got through it. It would have been fine.
Like how
But
long do you think that would have even lasted, really? The frustration, the desire for the cake.
yeah, probably not very long,
Yeah.
honest.
You know, the cool thing is, and this is what I learned from my mentor, and it's kind of true, that real deep frustration, that real, like that you wanted to eat that is really only about 45 seconds, believe it or not.
Okay.
It's like totally 45 seconds of like a really uncomfortable, kind of like pissed off feeling. And you can do a couple of different things in that moment, right? You can change your thinking, which will change how you feel. So you could say, everything is okay, all is well. You could coach yourself as if you were coaching a little kid. What would you say to them? Everything's fine. You don't need the cake. You'll be good. We'll start over. You know, we can start fresh right now. Like you could coach yourself, but most people are pissed off and they don't want to do that. Or you could just acknowledge it like, wow, like I'm super frustrated. Kind of like what I did where it was like, oh, like just really tired. And you kind of breathe and it's like a wave of emotion that comes over you. And just like we talked about the first night, where you feel that feeling, the beginning of the feeling, which is the yucky part, the middle of it, it's like a wave, and then the end of the wave. Like a wave comes up, it hits you, and then it goes away. And that's the feeling. And we have to get used to being in that uncomfortable feeling. A couple, like let's say you said, okay, I'm going to commit to not storm eating for the next 3 days or 4 days. So then you got to be willing to like feel that, but it's totally worth it. And then what happens is over time, those waves that hit you, they become smaller and smaller and smaller. And then they're just like blips. Like what I had last night was like, what? This is crazy. Done. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, so here's one of the things that I'm going to get you to do, and I'm jumping ahead to some homework, but you could start morning pages, okay? So you guys have probably heard me talk about morning pages, but there was a writing lady, she teaches a 12-week writing course called The Writer's Way, Julia Cameron, she's very famous, teaches writing, and she got her writing people to practice writing the art of writing every morning, 3 pages longhand, 3 pages longhand, even if you don't know, and I did this right when I started my Isogenics business, I would write 3 pages longhand, and it gets your feelings out. Even if it's like, I don't know what to write, but I'm writing 3 pages, you write it out. And guess what? By the end of the 3 pages, and you do it every morning before you get on with your day, a lot of the stuff that's in your mind, because your cup was probably up to here with other things, and then you threw in that and you bubbled over. But when you do the morning pages, your psychological stress will go down. It's like if you meditate. For me, if I walk on the ocean, right, my stress level's down. So when I get hit with something like that, it's not a big deal. So if you started morning pages for the next week or so and just got up every single morning and wrote longhand 3 pages, you would find that that stress level comes down. And the other thing, so what Julia Cameron found was at the end of the 12 weeks of the end of her writing course, a lot of these people lost weight. And so it was because they were not emotionally eating as much. So she wrote a book called The Writer's Diet, and basically it's that, write 3 pages longhand, find a way to get your stress out, right? So that would be good. But thanks for sharing that. So it's good to classify it, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
And don't beat yourself up and get pissed off. Just be like, oh, this is so fascinating. Storm eating. Okay. And that thought that you had, what did you say? It was like a really bad day?
Yeah, I was just having a really terrible day.
Like, I think that's a thought that you could work on and change that to more of like like a question where you could say, like, how can I turn this day around? What do I need to do to turn this around? What am I needing right now? So if I were to ask you last night and say, what do you need to do to turn this around? What do you think the answer would be?
I don't know if I should answer. Quit my job. I guess I don't know. I'm focused on doing the Isogenics business side, and I'm focused on getting myself out of the basement where I work.
So it's a conflict. Let me say one thing about that. This is also has to do with marriages, and it has to do with jobs. You want to be happy, and you can be happy no matter what. You can be happy in a job that doesn't serve you. You can be happy in a marriage that doesn't serve you. But you want to get happy with yourself and with everything, and you want to be at least neutral about it, because what tends to happen if we don't get happy with what we have, then we go to scenario B, and guess what happens? The same shit's going to come up. Even if you're doing your dream job, other things are going to come up. So it's really learning to be neutral or happy no matter what is happening around you. Because you can be in a total, you-know-what storm, and you can feel neutral. Because you could leave that job and do your own business, and there will be stressors, and there will be ups, and there will be downs. And you got to learn how to be neutral and happy no matter what's happening around you, okay? So anyone experience that where you think, if I just change jobs and move cities? I used to work with addicts, and they all thought that if they moved from Vancouver, where you could get cheap drugs, and moved to Ontario, where it was more expensive, that would solve their problem. But geography never solves a problem. Geography never solves a problem, right? So do the morning pages, and let's see what comes up. And I can teach you my self-coaching model, because I think that would really help. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Whereas muted.
Yeah, makes sense?
It does make sense, and I would absorb anything that you have to offer.
Yeah, so write down the number one, and anyone else can do this. Whatever your trigger is, write down your most painful thought about it. Like, I hate my job, I hate my partner, I don't have enough money. Whatever it is, your most painful thought that triggers you, and I'll teach you guys how to coach through that, okay? We'll come back around to that. Sound good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's take another one. Who else had like an aha moment or noticed something different? Any takeaways or? No, you guys are not wanting to share? Okay. Well, let's talk about why it's so darn hard. Why is this stuff so hard? I'm just going to stop this share now. So I want you guys to keep doing that. I want you to keep classifying your eating. Okay, keep classifying that, and keep noticing what's coming up for you, the storm eating, the fog eating. The fastest way to get rid of your fog eating, the mindless eating, is to journal. But why is it so hard? Number one, there's two things. We have an over hunger, that physical hunger. I'm going to talk to you about that today. And we have that over desire. So we talked a little bit about it because we've never really been taught how to deal with our emotions. We don't necessarily know how to cope. Maybe we had parents that fed us to help us cope with our emotions. So we kind of really, number one, have to learn how to manage our mind. It's really, really important. But before we get into that, let me just talk to you guys about the hormones, because this was my epiphany. And then my mentor, Brooke, who taught me weight loss coaching, I kind of broke away from what she was doing, because I really believed that food played a role in people's overeating. And lo and behold, a few years later, she discovered the same thing. And then she totally revamped her model of this. So I kind of feel like an early adopter. But here's the thing. What Jody's going through with that store meeting, we want to get your body on the same side as your brain. We want to get your body on your team, right? We want to get your hormones at least helping you. And we can do that with food. So let me just talk about the 3 main hormones that will impact your desire to eat, your over desire or your over hunger. And then I'll get into teaching you guys my model. So the 3 main hormones, and you can write this down, when it comes to weight gain and weight loss, your first one is your insulin. Okay, you guys have heard that word a lot. You've heard a lot about insulin. And obesity is caused by too much insulin in your blood. Okay, so insulin, we know it's a storage hormone. So it's a hormone that tells the body when it's really high, hey, store this excess as body fat. Okay? And when you have high levels of insulin in your body, if you're always eating a high carbohydrate diet, you have elevated insulin, you cannot unlock the key to burn body fat. So if you see someone who's struggling with weight, it's oftentimes because they haven't taken the magic key and unlocked the body's ability to burn fat. How can you do that? How do you unlock that key? Because you guys know what it feels like when you're in that mode. You know when you can feel that your body's burning fat for energy? Have you guys experienced that? It's like you can really feel it, right? Well, there's different ways to help the body unlock that, and we'll talk about that. So insulin resistance, which means elevated levels of insulin, and diabetes have skyrocketed with the increase of high sugar and high starch foods. Sadly, guys, we were the generation raised on what? Kraft dinner, grilled cheese sandwiches, Cheerios, unless you were like a granola. Does anyone relate to that? What was in your lunch? My mother used to feed us ice cream and cookies for dessert every night. Ice cream and cookies. You know, the cookies with the icing in them? That was our freaking dessert, right? As a kid, like on a Monday night. Not necessary, right? No wonder I developed probably insulin resistance. Jenny's like TV dinners, right? What were some of the hot things? Put them in your chat. What were some of the things? I think Americans even had it tougher. I mean, Pepsi. What were some of those high carbohydrate foods? TV dinners, Pop-Tarts, right? Sugar-coated cereal. Yeah, we call that camping cereal, macaroni and cheese. The only time my kids get sugar cereal is if we go camping. We don't even have a camper. So once a year, we call it camping cereal. It's like their treat, right? So it also affects insulin, affects these other 2 hormones that I'm reading here because I want to make sure I get it right. Ghrelin and leptin. Okay? So, whoa, what's happening? Oh, I'm pressing my brightness. Hold on a second. So leptin is the hormone. You guys heard of the word leptin before? Do you guys know what leptin is? Jenny, you probably know what it is. It's the hormone that lets us know that we're full, right? And that we need more food. And it also gives us the cue to get moving, to move our body. So, and it's blocked by the brain when we have too much insulin. Isn't that crazy? So if you find that you're eating and you're just not satisfied after, or you want to eat more, it feels like I never get full. You know, that hormone leptin can be, you know, interrupted by high levels of insulin in your body. So do you see what the impact insulin has on you? It's really, really nasty. And then ghrelin lets us know that we are hungry or no longer hungry. And it's negatively affected by the concentrated foods. So like a 300-calorie Coke, it doesn't know how to register that. So what we really need to do is learn how to manage our insulin, keep them low enough so that our brain gets onto our side. And once we do that, then I find you can manage the emotions. Because I know for myself, I have spent many years being over hungry, not feeling full, not feeling satisfied, having insatiable cravings, right? And being insulin resistant. So what that means is if I ate a piece of bread and let's say my husband ate a piece of bread, I would release far more insulin than what's needed. And so my body is going into fat storing mode and never unlocks the key to burning body fat. Did you guys know that you can heal insulin resistance? Do you want to know one of the fastest ways to heal insulin resistance is through intermittent fasting? Did you know that? Intermittent fasting, which is what we do in our nutritional program. We do intermittent fasting with people, and we also have low glycemic meal replacements, and we recommend a lower carbohydrate diet. When you do that and you combine it with high intensity interval training, that can also help heal insulin resistance. So for those, look at Shannon on her treadmill. Woo! Good job, girl. I love it. Do you guys have any questions about that, or do you have any comments about that, or some knowledge that you want to share? So
I think that right now that the whole lower carb keto thing, people are getting a lot more aware of it, but that, because it's big right now. But I think in general, just like you said, intermittent fasting and managing your sugar intake is going to be huge.
Absolutely. And keto's very popular at the moment. It's kind of a rage. And I don't know if Janny, you have any opinions on this, but I do feel that, and feel free to jump out and share. My own opinion, for people that I've observed doing keto, I don't see them getting all the minerals and the nutrients and the greens. I see them eating a lot of processed meat, a lot of processed cheese, and not getting the nutrients that your body requires. So I'm not about to diss another diet, but I know that what I do is a way that you can really have a low carb situation where you're fueling your body. What's your thought?
The one thing about keto is ketogenesis, which most people can't put their bodies into because they can't lower the carbohydrates that low, because it has to be about 20 grams of carbohydrates or lower a day. And so keto is not a food. It's a state that your body goes into, which is a fat burning state where it's using fat for fuel rather than burning off blood sugars. And most people just can't get their carbohydrates that low in order to get, and we do that through the intermittent fasting. That's why that works so well.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as keto food. There's no such thing.
Right. But I think the biggest thing is that regardless, calories in, calories out is still what it comes down to. And I think what people think when they get on this keto kick is they can eat as much as they want. Mm-hmm. And they're eating a lot of fat, and a lot of, it's hard to lose weight when you're eating a lot of fat, even though you might be in ketosis, because you're still eating too many calories. Does that make sense? So you have to really still stick, with the intermittent fasting, and you have to be able to balance that, which is not easy guesswork. So that's why I love this program. Anyways, Go ahead, Erin.
Totally. So the idea behind people on the keto diet say, well, I'm never hungry. It's because they've lowered their insulin levels. So, and we can do that as well. So what we recommend in our program, let's clean up the physical cravings that you have, right? Let's get rid of the two highest concentrated items that will give you a false sense of overhunger. So you will be overhungry if you consume too much flour and too much sugar. So if you're working with someone, or you're looking at your own life, the way that flour now is, the way that flour has been processed, it's basically, it spikes your insulin levels so high. If you wanted to keep it simple for yourself and you wanted to solve the problem of that over craving, that over desire, cut out refined sugars out of your diet and cut out flour. So it's not really about gluten so much. It's just really about those really refined flours. Okay. Some people will say, well, there's sugar in your shakes. Well, the shakes that I would recommend to you guys have 24 grams of fructose, which is fruit sugar. And it's the same amount of carbohydrates that would be in an apple. So if you would eat an apple, right, if you were being cognizant of it raising your insulin levels, the apple has fiber. You would pair it with something with protein perhaps to help balance that out. And that's what we do with our meal replacements. There's fiber, there's healthy fat, and there's protein. So it's actually a low glycemic shake, which helps balance out your insulin and your blood sugars, and people with diabetes and people with diabetes do really well. But it will, what I like is the minerals. The minerals in there will help feed your brain and cut your physical cravings. So number one, let's get rid of your physical over desire, your physical over hunger. And we can do that by eating a low glycemic diet and by adding in intermittent fasting. Okay, those are the two big things, right? And then once we clean all that up, now we're left with the emotions, like I'm having a bad day stuff. So what do we do with that? Well, number one, you've got to feel your feelings. Like, like Jody could have sat there and breathed through it. And I think it's really awesome that you even noticed it. Were you noticing it in the moment, Jody? Were you like, this is totally storm eating. I know I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Step number one, right? Like step number one, because if it happened last week, you might not have been able to label it. So labeling it, knowing it, so feeling your feelings all the way through. Imagine that wave, just being like, whoa, right? And you guys know how to do that. If you had a little child with you, what would you tell them? My friend just rejected me or whatever. You'd say, everything's okay. You're fine. Take a deep breath. You're going to be fine. You would know how to handle that. You know how to handle those emotions. It's the willingness. And just know it's going to be 3 weeks of shit. It's going to be 3 weeks of sucking ass and saying, I hate this. I'm grumpy. I want to eat the sugar. I want to eat the flour. But if you can get through those first few days or weeks or months, it will get easier. I remember when I started on this program, I was not happy. I was grumpy. Wendy helped me. I wanted to cave in. I wanted to eat my sugary things, my flour, my peanut butter sandwiches, and I wasn't happy about it. But I got through it, and it got easier. And if you've got some bad habits lately, just be willing to go through it. And when you rip the Band-Aid off quickly, it's a lot easier. So give it a couple days of discomfort, feeling your feelings. The other thing is prevention. So doing your journaling, writing down your thoughts, finding what is your method of coping with stress. Maybe you like to walk in the woods. Maybe you like to, knit. Maybe you like to do whatever. But if you're constantly being stimulated by social media and you're busy, and you never unplug, your cortisol and your stress hormone is probably up here. Because it raises your cortisol to be in that stress mode. So you need to unplug, you need to be around nature, or listen to music, unwind, even watching comedy on TV, something that allows your brain to relax, okay? So put that into your daily operation. And then that's what I would do. So, and then the third thing is that we can learn the self-coaching model. And I can talk about that on the next class, which is how do you coach yourself? How do you set a goal so that you're going to hit it and that you're going to follow through? Because a lot of times when we struggle with our weight and emotional eating, we're always looking in the past. We're very past focused. When you can become future focused, when you can be compelled towards a goal, you will go after it. There's some of you in IsaBody right now, you're going after it. You're compelled towards it. And that makes it so much easier, right? Okay, blah, blah, blah. So our homework right now is we're going to continue to manage your feelings, classify your food, but you're going to take those two things that really mess up your insulin and you're going to take them out of your diet. Okay? So you're going to take out the flour, which is very highly processed. It's like, it'd be like a vodka to an alcoholic, right? It's like we're taking that out, and sugar. So sugar would be like things like pop or candy or, those really high sugar things. Okay. So flour and sugar are the main culprits. The other thing I'm going to ask you to do too is the third piece of advice. We're going to go back grandma style. What did your grandma used to say before dinner? If you were like playing and it was like 4 o'clock and you were hungry and you wanted to snack, what would your grandma have told you? She would say, wait till dinner. You're fine. Suck it up, right? Depends on how nice your grandma was. But probably she would have said, or she would have said to your parents, wait until dinner. You don't need to snack. You're fine. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but when I brought my friend to my little baby Sydney to get babysat from my friend from Newfoundland, And I was an insecure mom. I didn't know what I was doing. And she was like an expert. She had like 3 kids. She was like, give me that girl there, bye. And she took my girl. And this is a Canadian thing. And, you know, I remember picking her up her first day from daycare. She was another Air Force wife. And I didn't even have Tupperware. She was walking around with the Tupperware in her hand, 18 months, and she's playing full of goldfish crackers. That's what she was doing, was walking around with a little cup full of goldfish flour, highly processed. No idea. I was like, oh, I guess this is what you do when you're a good mom, is you like constantly feed your kids goldfish, crop dinner. I just took the lead. I honestly wish I could press the reset button and fast forward and like restart. I can tell you right now, I would not be letting my toddler walk around with a cup full of goldfish freaking crackers. And then it was Tim Hortons, and every time she went to Tim Hortons, she'd buy her kid a Timbit. And even though my kids would hold the Timbit in their hand for 20 minutes, and as it crumbled, they might eat a bite, but they didn't really eat it because they didn't want it. I was literally conditioning them to eat this processed crap. And am I ever not happy with that right now? Right? Because I find myself having to undo that, and it's never easy. So those are the things, flour and sugar, the 2 nasties. And when you look around in our culture, they are everywhere, aren't they? Doesn't it break your heart when you go to a mall or something and you see a kid with a big like Frosty or like a big, you know, it just, and you see this little chubby toddler, and I just think, man, this guy's insulin must be in a consistently elevated state. It's just heartbreaking. So we can lead by example, right? And that's one thing you can do, right, is really help. So yes, there's your homework. Number 1, flour and sugar. Play around with taking that out and see if you're over-desired, Jody. I bet that resisting that cake was partly because your insulin was already elevated, your hormones were already elevated from, if you said you had a bad day, I'm just going to take a wild guess that you had flour or sugar earlier in the day, and it really elevates your insulin. And then as soon as it starts to come down, the body is like, ooh, I like that. I like that drug. I like that dopamine in my brain. I want more. I want more sugar. I want more flour. It's like a drug. And so as soon as it starts to go down and you got a chance at burning body fat that day, the body's screaming for more. So what we want to do is teach the body that it's not going to get the hit. It's like a cranky toddler that wants its soother. You're not going to get your hit. Eventually the body gets pissed off enough and goes into stored body fat for energy. Goes into your liver, the glycogen stores and things like that. But if it's a constant hit of carbohydrates, then you never really get that benefit. Does that make sense to you guys? And that's why I love our program. So our other homework is going to be go to those 3 square meals a day that grandma told you to do. If you're an Isogenics user, or if you want to talk about that, message the person who invited you to this call. That's going to be your meal replacement for breakfast. That's going to be your meal replacement at lunch. And a real healthy dinner that has protein, fat, and carbohydrates, tons of vegetables, and see if you can go through the discomfort of the hunger through the day. Now, when I was training for fitness and competing in a fitness competition, I did eat every 3 to 4 hours, because my body was, my goal was to put on muscle, and I was eating a lot, right? So Jenny, I don't know what your opinion is on that, but there's a time and place for eating frequently. But if you're trying to heal your insulin resistance or your food cravings, I think less is more. So I don't know, feel free to jump out. I know Jenny's an medical exercise physiologist, so she knows some stuff too. So let's review our homework. Number 1, we're going to continue to classify our types of eating. Number 2, you're going to take out flour and sugar and play around with that and see how your body responds. And number 3, you're going to go to your 3 square meals a day. I do the bedtime belly buster, which is something else that we do in our program, which is I'm having high protein before I go to sleep. It's been clinically proven to help build lean muscle. I also use MCT oil, which is called brain octane, which is a great fuel for your brain and your energy. And so sometimes I will start my day with a modified meal replacement shake. If you're in a plateau, you can play around with this. I do 1.5 scoops of Isopro with some MCT oil and my greens. So I'm getting like the nutrients of like 12 bowls of spinach. I'm getting high protein. I'm getting healthy fat. So some mornings I will start with that, or I'll just have my straight meal replacement. Or if you're not on our program, you can do eggs, you can do avocado, but you don't want to keep elevating your insulin all the time. Does that make sense? All right, so who has a question or what are you taking away? Love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts? Who wants to share something? We got Andrea, Becky, Janet, Sue, Shannon, Tracy, Wendy, Janny. What are you taking away? What are you going to do with this information?
Well, for me, I think it's great to, to think about less is more, because I think we have been so, I guess just everybody talks about eating every 2 to 3 hours and doing all of that. And I've been doing that most of my life, and it hasn't really helped me.
Yeah.
So I really do think that, I've had my insulin tapped and it's okay, but I do think it's really important to manage your insulin, and to not, the more you eat, especially if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, even if they're good carbs, it's still carbohydrates. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we didn't talk about female hormones. I know there was a girl the other day who asked about, there are definitely other hormones that impact your weight. And for some people, that's like a totally different situation. But we're talking here about hormones affected by food and hunger and desire and emotional eating, right?
Yeah.
But adrenals and your thyroid has a lot to do with your weight. And so for some people, this, that might be a factor.
Awesome.
Shannon, did you want to jump out?
Yes. My big thing is knowing what keto was, because before I started my program, I was looking into keto because I love the idea of eating cheese and bacon. And I think a lot of people think that that's what keto is going to be. And I think that your body can go through so much trauma if you're going in and out of ketosis, I think it's called. So your body can actually stop working properly if it goes into an acidic state for too long. So I think it's really important to note that.
Yeah. And I will say one thing, getting those minerals and nutrients into your body when you're doing our program, I see people literally glowing. They literally glow of health. You can see it in their face. And I think Marla's at the gym with you, unless you guys have a matching living room. Hey, Marla, good for you. Hey, love it. Did you want to add anything else? Who else wanted to jump out? Lori, I'd love to hear your opinion. You're a vet, Lori, so you must deal with this with animals all the time.
Yep, we do for sure. Obesity in animals, definitely a rising crisis too, because we all love to feed them, just like we like to eat ourselves. I'm so glad I'm doing this with you again, Erin. I know I did this with you a while ago, but I took your notes from Sunday. I definitely, on my 3 work days as a vet, it's a stressful job. And when I get home and hit the door, I think, good job, girl, you survived. Let's get something to eat. Mm-hmm. And that's been my thing for ages. So I'm definitely working on that. I'm trying to reward myself with something other than food for that. So that's my stormy is stress from work. I feel like I survived another day.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of work, I'm sure, stressful, people coming in and they're managing. I'm sure the pets are fine.
Pets are fine. Yeah.
It's just the owners. Just get them out of the room. Why do you let the people go in? Just make them wait in the waiting room. That'd probably be better.
Yeah, they object to that.
Well, yeah, and just it's like conditions. So maybe you have a new habit where as soon as you get home, you walk your own dog or you do something like that. It takes a bit of planning, but it's interrupting that pattern. It was the pattern that I had that every time I drove past this Dairy Queen, I would go in. It was so conditioned. Mm-hmm. So it's breaking that condition. And you might, if you get home late and you're getting home hungry, maybe you want to have your shake at 3:00. Maybe you want to intermittent fast till noon, have your shake at noon, have one at 3, and then bump your dinner till later.
Yeah. I've done that in the past, and it definitely helps. So it's just a matter of planning it.
Yeah.
And I'm also taken from your last class. You said, how does your body respond to the different macros? I'm increasing my fats right now because I think what I do is stay too low fat during the day, and then by the time evening comes, then I just go crazy because I'm craving and hungry. So the past 2 days I've increased fats during the day, and I've noticed I'm definitely not as craving my nighttime usual things. Last night I ate something because that was a total habit. Plopped in front of the television, and that's always my snack cue.
Yeah.
But I wasn't hungry for it at all. So I'm paying attention to what that's doing for me as well.
Totally Pavlov's, you know, and we can change that. It just takes that awareness. Like if there's not a lot of emotion around it, it's pretty easy. But fat, guys, make sure you get enough fat because that will help really crush your cravings as well. So you could have, when you have your shake, you could have, you know, some almond butter, you could have some avocado, stuff like that.
Yep.
Or like the brain octane fuel. I know, Wendy, you were doing that for a while and you felt quite energized by it.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, ladies, anyone else? All right, so you guys got your homework? That you know what you're going to do? All right, so we will see you back tomorrow, and we're going to be coaching ourselves. Sound good? Oh, storm eating from stress, great tips. I'm starving in the eating. I'm starving in the evenings. Okay, Sue's got a lot of storm eating. So Sue, if you can come on tomorrow, we'll do some live coaching on that. Okay, we'll do some live coaching, and maybe start some morning pages. So tomorrow morning, or even tonight, do those 3 pages longhand. See what's going to come out. Look at you, you look emotional already. Yeah, get some of that down on paper. 3 pages longhand. Okay, beautiful. And Delisa says, I'm storm eating from stress. Great tips. Great tips. I'm starving in the evenings. What is brain octane? So Delisa, what I want you to do is start those morning pages. 3 pages longhand. It's beautiful. It's summer. Get up really early. Just sit with a blanket and even go outside and just write 3 pages longhand. Just see what comes up for you. Get some of that stress out of your brain onto paper. If you're starving in the evenings, and have a bigger dinner if you think you need that. Or start the bedtime belly buster. So instead of eating something in the evening, if you're legit physically hungry, right, and you've cut out flour and you've cut out sugar, so you know it's like legit hunger. If it's starving, I don't know if that's hunger or just a craving. Have your 1.5 scoops of Isopro. Throw in some greens. You can get the brain octane. It's called Bulletproof. It's brain octane. It's just an MCT oil, which is oil pressed from, I think, like coconuts and stuff. And it will help with any of those food cravings. When I was training for fitness, I would take my Ionics, which is my adaptogens, powdered Ionics, powdered greens, and crunching ice, and I would drink that in the evenings because I was legitimately physically hungry, but I still wanted to burn body fat. I didn't necessarily want my body using carbs and sugar for energy, so I would have Ionics and greens. And, you know, it wasn't a lot, but it definitely mentally satisfied me. So try something like that. And brain octane, I'll spell it for you. You can get it at Whole Foods or different grocery stores. Yeah. So, all right, guys, we'll let you guys go. Have an amazing night. And we'll catch up with you tomorrow at the same time, 5 PST. And we'll do some live coaching. Thanks, everyone. Bye.